All right. It's been a long 247 days without a game in Michigan high school hockey. Brighton and Catholic Central back on March 9th was the last time two high school teams took to the ice at the same time. Fast forward to today, Cadillac and Tawas will square off at 4 p.m. on Monday, unofficially the start of the 2024-25 Michigan high school hockey season. In addition to that, I've circled 8 big game matchups that I've got my eye on this week. Top 25 matchups, rivalries, evenly balanced opponents, a lot at stake in week 1 of the regular season. All of my picks are published on pdspicks.com, and I'll keep track of my record all season long. And stay tuned, stay with me as we will track the public's record all season long as well. So if you want to get involved in that, I'll include a link in the description below where you can submit your picks for these games as well. And like I said, we'll do a little PD versus the public as the season unfolds. Also got a big announcement we'll get into after the picks, so stay tuned for that as well. Okay, game 1, big game I got circled on my calendar. We're going big right out of the gate here. You got number 1 Detroit Catholic Central hosting number 6 Livonia Stevenson. This game coming to you on Thursday. Very intriguing matchup. You know, I've talked about the turnover for Catholic Central and how many bodies they're replacing in their lineup after a large graduating class last spring, plus the departure of Brooks Rogowski as well. So a lot of turnover there for Catholic Central. I do think that turnover could create some vulnerability here early on in the season. And what Stevenson has going for it is that experience and bringing back 19 of 20 guys from the starting lineup a season ago. So two complete polar opposites here. One team replacing virtually their entire lineup, while another team returns virtually their entire lineup. I do think Stevenson has the pieces, has the depth to make this an interesting game right out of the gate. And I wrote in the blog on pdspicks.com, having that experience, having those guys who have been in Coach Dave Mitchell's system for a year, 2 years, maybe even 3 years in some instances, you've got that familiarity with the forecheck, with expectations on special teams, your power plays, your penalty kills. Stevenson is going to hit the ground running, and they're going to give Catholic Central a great punch here in game 1. Hypothetical, not a literal punch, but I think it'll be a very physical game in that Stevenson plays a style of hockey that will grind you out, slow this game, muck it up a little bit, take away some of Catholic Central's time and space to make those creative and fancy plays. Stevenson with that in-your-face forecheck. Spartans are going to make this a close game. I could see this being 0-0 at the end of 1-0 at the end of 2. It could be a lopsided in terms of shots on goal and things like that, but I've seen this narrative a couple times now where Stevenson keeps this game close with Catholic Central. I think it's going to take the Shamrocks a couple weeks before we see what they're going to look like long term as those kind of newcomers come in, get acclimated to the high school game, get acclimated to a new coach, new systems, and expectations and things like that for Catholic Central. But ultimately, I do think skill ends up prevailing here, and Catholic Central gets a gritty win on opening week over the Spartans. I mentioned in the blog, it feels like a 3-0, 3-1 type game. I don't see this being a blowout, and I unfortunately just don't quite see the Spartans having enough to get over the hump and edge out your top-seeded, top-ranked Detroit Catholic Central. Moving into game 2, and as this season progresses here with the weekly picks, I'll add some more graphics and we'll have some fun stuff with making these picks. And from a visual standpoint, I'll deliver a little bit more from a visual standpoint, so you don't have to look at my ugly mug the whole time. But until then, I will verbally paint a word picture for you here and what I'm seeing in these matchups. Another matchup on Thursday night, a big one, rivalry. Number 5, Houghton takes on Hancock up in the UP. And man, opening up the season with these big rivalry games is tough. There's another one on the horizon too I'll get to in a minute. This has been a pretty lopsided affair in terms of the rivalry. I believe Hancock is 0 for its last 18 in this series. And talking with coaches and things like that, I believe Houghton has essentially claimed this rivalry for the last like 7 years now. Uh, Houghton, a couple of key departures. I've talked about them at length this offseason, but they're bringing returning guys back in like Connor Arco and Jace DeForge. Houghton is very much going to be a real contender yet again this season. This is a tough spot for Hancock right out of the gate. They have a lot of pieces that I like. You've heard me talk about Tevin Stukel ad nauseum, but I also like Brady Axford a lot. He was a young guy, I think a freshman last season, that really jumped out to me. I could see him taking a huge step here in year two, making that big sophomore jump, becoming more of an impact player for the Bulldogs in a spot where they're going to need some playmakers to really grow and develop after some of the losses they incurred this offseason. So I think Hancock is close. I think they're closing the gap here with Houghton. Played them tough twice last season. I believe one of those was a 1-0 game. I think Hancock can make it scrappy and keep it close yet again this season. I just don't think there's enough there yet to get over the hump. So I'm going to take Houghton here in a big rivalry on opening week. Going to move into Friday matchups here. I got a comment here. How do you feel about the Eaglets? Orchard Lake. Well, they're my number 2 team in the state right now, so I feel pretty good about them. Matchups this week, I don't have them on our picks for the week, but I'm sure there are plenty of matchups on the horizon where we will get into Orchard Lake for sure. MIHL teams, though, we'll get into number 10, Brother Rice here. Marquette, 13th ranked team in the state, coming down to Brother Rice out of the gate. This is the 4th year in a row Marquette has opened the season by making a long road trip downstate to play the Warriors. They also do like a back-to-back. They'll play a second team on Saturday night. I believe they play Clarkston Saturday night. So those are 2 tough games to open the season there. Big challenge for Marquette out of the gate. They don't travel 450 miles to lose. I'm putting it that way. Marquette is a team, again, I think they're going to be 4 lines deep. It's going to be wave after wave of in-your-face forecheck, as I put it before. Brother Rice has some talented guys, has some top-level prospects. You've heard me talk about Cam George and Roman Valaire ad nauseum. There's some other nice pieces to that team as well, but Marquette, to me, is in a position where I think they can really thrive in this environment. It's early on in the season, so some of the systems and X's and O's aren't going to be as pretty, which I think could be a bit of a hindrance for Brother Rice in particular. So when this game comes down to just being a grind them out in your face, putting people into the boards, pucks on net, scrums in front of the net, I think that favors Marquette in this instance. And I think they can finally start the season with a win here at Brother Rice, which I don't think they've done now in at least 2 trips downstate. So a big win here, a big road win for Marquette. I put 4-2 is kind of my final prediction there for Marquette over Brother Rice on Friday night. Another big matchup Friday, Sparta and Bay City. And I mentioned these 2 teams are a bit of the Spider-Man meme you see on social media, but in a great way. Bay City, very similar to Sparta. Sparta, very similar to Bay City. I think the Spartans are maybe a year or 2 behind Bay City in that process in terms of just climbing the state ranks, making building a reputable name for themselves on the statewide scene. Bay City blew up last season with some top prospects. Gunnar Weber really cementing himself as a top player, playing in the MDHL and doing some of the fall stuff that helped put Bay City on the map, in addition to what they achieved in season. I think you're starting to see some of that with Sparta this season. They had a couple guys doing MHA in the fall. Sparta departing from the OKC, playing an independent schedule. They're going to have an opportunity to play teams from around the state and really make a name for themselves in top 25 consideration. One of my teams I had kind of as an honorable mention for my preseason top 25 that I put out last week. So this is a very intriguing matchup for me because I think these two teams are very close, very evenly matched. A lopsided win one way or the other could obviously change that narrative quite a bit. I think this ultimately ends up being a very close game. I took 4-3. It's at Bay City, which is tough, but this is Sparta. Get it done, Spartans. Okay, so another top 25 matchup. This one coming to you on Friday as well. Number 3 Heartland travels to number 12 Trenton. Very intriguing matchup because I mentioned MHA a couple minutes ago. Ian Castamo, Ty Kraut on the Heartland side of things, Evan Seavey on the Trenton side of things. These were guys that were teammates 3 weeks ago for MHA. Donovan Durbin, Landon Leone on the Trenton side of things, Vinny Sabala on the Heartland side of things. Again, MHA teammates, now they're opponents. Going to be a very interesting dynamic, but I also think that's what makes high school hockey so unique is a month ago they were your teammate and a month later they're now your foe. So pretty cool dynamic there. Trenton is going to be a tough place to play as always. You got the Trojan Pit, great rink, great atmosphere. It's going to be electric there, especially on opening night. So it's going to be a tough environment for Heartland to play in. Heartland, I think, is the more experienced, maybe even more talented team. But I think the environment kind of helps level that out. Plus, it's opening night. Trenton is going to keep this game close, especially with a guy like Civi in net. But I do think Heartland ultimately prevails in the end. I took them 3-1 here down at Kennedy to eke out a tough win on the road on opening night. Another matchup here, Lakeland and number 19 Sault Ste. Marie. Lakeland going up to Big Bear Arena to open up the season. Another tough slate. These are some big challenges out of the gate. You go on a long road trip like that to open up the season. That's no easy feat. Both of these teams won regional championships a season ago. Both of them backed by pretty top level goaltending. Cam Labadie for Sault Ste. Marie and then Paul Baker for White Lake Lakeland. Both of those guys are now gone though. So that leaves a lot of questions in net. There's some good offensive firepower on both sides of the ice here. You look at Nathan Dell and Austin Scanlon for Lakeland, Nick Wood, Evan Kennedy, Corson Pace for Sault Ste. Marie. There's some studs that are going to be on both ends here. This could feel like a bit of a track meet to me. High scoring. I could see this being 5-3. I put 6-4 on the blog. Don't be surprised if these two teams combine for 10 goals scored. Again, just not knowing what these guys have coming in goal. Plus, again, things are kind of sloppy, kind of choppy right out of the gate. Again, high scoring game here. I'm going to take Sault Ste. Marie, obviously playing at home. And obviously, just some guys offensively I like just a little bit better here than Lakeland out of the gate. So give me the Sioux there to defend their home turf. We get into Saturday. I got 2 more games on the schedule here. And I'm just not ready for this matchup. You guys can't do this to me right out of the gate. You got the War of the Woods on Saturday night at Patterson Ice Arena. Forest Hills Northeastern and Forest Hills Central squaring off to hash out crosstown supremacy. I haven't even finished my proverbial morning coffee of the high school hockey season, and we're already trying to figure out who the best in the city is. That's just tough. On paper, I think Forest Hills Central should be a pretty heavy favorite, especially when, big announcement on last week's episode, Ben Milak is back for Forest Hills Central. Started out the season playing in the NCDC. He's actually back for the Rangers now for the winter. So you couple him with a guy like Gibby Grindell. Eli Lipke as a defenseman, I don't think gets enough credit around the state. Top level guy too, who pairs exceptionally well with Grindell there on the back end. Great 1-2 punch. Jack Pierzynski is coming off a solid fall campaign with MHA as well. Mike and Nolan Timmer, I love those guys too. So on paper, I think it's very lopsided in favor of Forest Hills Central. But again, you got to throw some of that stuff out the window when it comes to a rivalry, especially when you consider 6 of the last 7 matchups in this series have been decided by 2 goals or less. It seems to be close every time these two teams take to the ice. And not only that, in those 7 games, The record is 3-3-1. Very evenly matched series here in recent memory. Logan Spikerman, Sean Hall, I think those guys can keep things close, keep it impassioned, keep the Bird Dogs engaged and in a fight essentially with their crosstown rivals. I also mentioned in the blog, Nolan Gino was a freshman last season who really stood out to me. A really nice skill set, good game there. I think he's one who maybe he plays a factor in this game, maybe he doesn't. I think he's ultimately going to be a factor long term, so one to keep your eye on as the season unfolds. But wouldn't surprise me at all if he played a factor in this game on Saturday. I'm so torn on this. Of all the games, this is one I don't have a good read on, and I've scared to pick. I'll put it that way, because I feel like if I go one way, it's going to be the other. If I go the other, it's going to be the one. But it's just too close to call. I cannot, in good faith, pick against my Rangers, though. I'll take them to win 3-2 on Saturday evening at Patterson. We're going to wrap things up here with one more game. Saturday, 7:30, John Lindell Ice Arena. You got Northville, who was one of my honorable mentions, on the bubble, on the fringe of my preseason top 25, looking to play their way in to top 25 consideration against number 25 M-1 United. And these were two teams I was torn on as I put together my preseason rankings, and could have easily slotted in Northville and left M-1 out, put M-1 in, and drop Northville out. This is kind of a prove it game for both teams, right? Northville obviously coming from the KLAA, super competitive league year in and year out. One of your perennial powers in the state. This is a chance for M-1 United to really prove itself on the statewide scene. You know, you're not going to get many of these opportunities to play top level, what's the word I'm looking for? Pedigree. There we go. Teams that are playing in the MIHL, teams that are playing in the KLAA, the Metro League, things like that. M1 doesn't normally get many shots at that. So when you do, you got to make good on it. With this one in particular, Northville, these are two very evenly matched teams with some studs on both sides, right? You've heard me talk about Charlie Price and his junior hockey potential in playing on past high school hockey. This is a good spot to prove that, right? You're playing against a top level team. It's time to step up. Let's see how we do, right? Tommy Marinoff on the other side, Alex McCollum for Northville as well. So this is a sneaky important game for teams on both sides to, you think you're a top level team, you want to be considered amongst the top in the state, go prove it. Here's your opportunity. I will say M-1 United, I peeked at their schedule briefly. I don't think it was complete when I saw it, but saw a couple top level non-conference games on the schedule. I love to see that, especially playing in the OAA. It's good to kind of get out of your comfort zone, out of your bubble there, and play some of these other top programs. Northville being one of them. I think I saw like Country Day on their schedule too. There's another one I'm blanking on too, but a couple reputable programs around the state. And M-1 United, I think, even with a good showing here, proves they belong, right? If it's a 1 or a 2 goal game, proves they can compete and skate with a team like Northville, skate with a team from the KLAA. But like I said, it is a prove it game, and I put M-1 United in the top 25. I put a number next to their name for a reason. I'm taking them to get the win. Plus, this game's at home. Let's go, Griffins. Let's get it done. Okay, so that was it for the picks. Let me get back to my notes here because there's a couple things we got to button up. Like I mentioned, you can get involved and make your picks. I'll put that link in the description below if you want to play along and submit your picks as well. We got way more content coming your way this week and beyond as well. I mentioned a big announcement. Okay, I'll have my first guest on the pod on a live episode tomorrow night. So stay tuned for that. Going to be talking a lot of high school hockey. We'll preview the upcoming season, talk about players, teams, coaches, everything to get into as far as high school hockey is concerned. So hit the subscribe button here on YouTube and turn on those notifications to get notified when we go live so that you don't miss that unique announcement on PD's Picks. Feel free to leave a comment too on YouTube or post on social media with who you think the special guest might be. And then also, I've been teasing this for a couple weeks now, the top 100 names to know returning to Michigan high school hockey. That's coming out this week as well, so you do not want to miss that. 3 episodes of the pod in 1 week. The hockey season is off and running. We are just cooking here right out of the gate. So tons of great content coming your way. So don't miss out.